Yeah, I'm excited to do this call today, and I have a topic that I'd like to cover that I think is really, really important on sales calls, right? It's something that if you can really master this, right? This lesson is going to be important because if you really master this, you will close more sales. And it's very, very important, not only in just your sales calls, but your marketing efforts, your offer, all of this is super, or this is going to impact everything that you do. And if you can understand this concepts, it really will make all of your efforts in marketing and selling more fruitful. But specifically on sales calls, that's what I like to focus on here, is making sure that everything's dialed in. And this is going to be super important. And it's framing, right? It's knowing how to frame your conversation. So I actually put out a post on Threads yesterday that I think is really good. And it's something I wanted to bring into here and actually elaborate on. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go over this concept here. Um, and kind of give you an idea and a little more context to what I wrote down on Threads. So this is all surrounding framing not only the call, but your offer and everything that you're doing. And this is going to be super impactful. So the thread, we're just going to kind of read it down here, and I'm going to provide more context to make sure that there's only so much context you can give in a Threads post, right? So but framing in sales conversations is really important, right? And I look at the image below, and basically what I have is a beautiful picture with an ugly frame around it, right? And it looks weird, it's off-putting. Um, and that's a representation of, what you need to do on calls is that, you can have the most beautiful offer, you can have, a great sales conversation, but if you have an ugly frame around it, it throws it all off, right? So framing is important because you want to make sure that you've got a beautiful picture in a beautiful frame, not a beautiful picture in an ugly frame, right? And on the flip side as well, you could have an ugly picture in a beautiful frame, and it's still something that you could hang up on your wall, right? A frame is important. So it's an analogy that really you want to frame things in your call in a way so that you can retain control of the call, and you can also put your offer in a good light before you actually present it, right? So um, the exact first thread reads, look at the image below. Obviously, you can't see it here. It was posted on the thread itself, but beautiful picture in a hideous frame. Looks ugly. If you aren't framing your sales conversations and your offer in a way that complements the beauty of what you provide, you won't sell. Here's how to frame your conversation and your offer. And it's very important in the beginning of the call, right? One of the first things that you need to do on a sales call is quickly build rapport and then frame the call to give context as to what's going to happen on the call, right? So you need to frame the entire conversation in a way that is going to clearly explain the goal of the call and what they are going to get out of it. Also, it's important for you to take control of the call and display authoritative leadership on the call. They are there looking for a leader. Framing the goal and objective of the call sets the stage, and you can say something like, all right, so here's the goal of the call today. It's for me to get a clear understanding of where you're at, what you're looking to accomplish, and see how we can help you get there. If it makes sense, I'll show you what it could look like for us to work together and help you out. Sound good? Right? So what you do there when you say that is you're taking control of the call, and you're giving context to what they're about to experience. So if you didn't say that and you kind of just started peppering them with questions, all of a sudden they're like, wait, why is this happening? Right. So giving this frame allows them to have an idea and understanding, okay, this person's in control of the call, they're setting the stage, and this is what to expect. And what's really good about this is too, is that later on in the call, if you find yourself going down these different paths where you're getting away from the main objective of the call, you already set the frame. You can easily rope it back in and just say, to them, if you're way off on a tangent, you're talking about things, you really don't know how you got there in the conversation, you're in control of the call, you set the frame, you can simply go, hey, we've got a few minutes left on our call here. I want to make sure that we make the most out of it and they're productive. And I want to get back to understanding where you are and where you're at, right? So it allows you to always retain control of the conversation, rein it back in when it needs to be, so they have a clear understanding of why you're doing that in a call, right? So The second part, right, is shifting, starting to frame your offer. So you frame the call as a whole. So they have expectations of, what's going to go on the call. And then as you work through the entire sales conversation, you want to start asking questions, making statements, and using analogies to start framing your offer, right? Putting it in a good light before they even see it. And this is something that you'll be aware of that you're doing that they're not really going to be aware of it when you're actually going through the call with them, right? So next you want to shift the focus onto them and start digging into why they're on the call in the first place, right? You ask good questions. You truly listen to their answers. This requires active listening, right? You really want to be engaged and understand where they're at, make them feel seen, heard, and understood. You want to validate their feelings and experiences and empathetically show them that you understand. By taking control and asking the right questions, you're reinforcing that you are the expert. Not only in the leader on the call, but you're now positioning and framing yourself as someone who understands where they're at. Right? That's important. If they don't feel understood, they're not going to buy from you. So this is an important thing, right? And this is all starting to frame you as the expert and your offer as the solution, right? So this is beginning to frame you and your offer in a good way. Third, right? There's a ton of things that can go into this. The whole conversation is framing your offer, but here's a really, great way to frame your offer, right? And give context. So during your sales conversation, after you get through the discovery phase and you understand, their pains, their problems, what they've tried before, why they're looking for certain solutions, you want to give them a solid piece of advice and value that they can take from the call, regardless if they move forward with you or not, right? You want to help them become very clear on exactly what they need to do to solve their problem and achieve the outcome you uncovered in the discovery process. Really, you want to give all the sauce you have. Don't hold anything back, right? Doing this is going to position you as someone with a solution that can help them and also illuminate the gap that they currently have that is the reason they are not where they want to be. And a very simple example would be a fitness offer, right? Or a weight loss. Or if you're a keto, even more specifically, right? Let's go with like a keto diet. Say the advice you want to give them, right, is, hey, I understand that you're struggling with X, Y, and Z, and here's exactly what you need to do to, solve this problem. You need to make sure that you're moving on a daily basis, but you really want to make sure your diet is dialed in, right? A keto diet is a low carb diet, right? And you basically give them all the information on it. And then you say you also need someone holding you accountable to doing those things. And that's how you're going to achieve XYZ transformation to solve XYZ problem that you're having, right? So while it may seem obvious, they're already not doing it, right? You're really giving them the information that they need. That's true. They do need to exercise more. They do need a dialed in diet and they need accountability and someone to hold them accountable to doing it because they'd be doing it already if they didn't need that, right? So you're really giving them the solution to what they're looking for. You don't have to hold anything back here. And you obviously make this, relevant to your individual offer. But it's also illuminating the gap that they currently have, right? So they're sitting there like, dang, I'm either not exercising or I don't have my diet dialed in and I don't have anyone holding me accountable. So you haven't even offered anything yet, but you're framing your offer or you're framing what they need to be that. So when they see your offer, it fits perfectly in. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if you're a fitness person, your offer is going to be somewhere around exercise, diet, and accountability. So they actually do the things. That's what you're selling. So you don't even need to mention your offer. You're just telling them the pieces of your offer that they're currently missing. And that shows them the gap that they have all the while framing your offer before you give it to them, right? So before you present, we're going to jump into the fourth one here. Before you present the details of your offer, you want to frame and position your offer as the thing that will be the remedy and solution to the problems that they're facing, right? You also frame your offer as the missing piece that will easily be able to help them or that will help them be able to easily implement that piece of value and advice that you gave them earlier to solve their problems. You frame your product and program as the bridge that will get them over the gap that you created earlier in the conversation, right? So now that they have, oh, I need fitness, accountability, and accountability, fitness, diet, and accountability to get this. Now you can start to position your offer throughout the conversation, like, hey, I've helped a lot of people here. Here's some, people that I've helped. What we did for Johnny was I gave him a customized workout routine, and then we got him a customized keto diet plan, and most importantly, I held him accountable, so he got XYZ results that he was looking for. Right. So what you're doing, you still haven't made the offer yet. You're just explaining, hey, here's what you're missing. Here's how I help someone else do it. And this is all framing your offer. Right. So then when you finally present your offer, it clicks. It makes sense. It fits like the last piece to their puzzle that they're missing. It's like a beautiful picture in a beautiful frame that they want to buy and hang on their wall. Right. So by doing all this in the conversation, by showing them that you understand where they're at, by, really validating their feelings and experiences, by telling them, giving them advice, right? And telling them exactly what they need, you're positioning and framing yourself as the expert. You're creating a gap and going, hey, this is what you need and you currently don't have it, and that's why you're having XYZ problem, right? So you're shaping the way they're perceiving your offer and building trust as the authority who can solve their problem. And if you frame properly throughout your conversation, when you actually make your offer, it all just makes sense. It's not like you're shoving a square peg through a round hole. The goal is to, again, if your offer to be the missing piece to the puzzle, but you have to frame it constantly throughout the conversation. You need to position yourself as the expert. You need to give them value and advice so they know exactly what they're missing. You have to illuminate the gap from where they are now to where they want to be. And then your offer can be the bridge that gets them over that gap, right? You can help them implement the things that you talked about on the call. So when they do hear the offer, it's like, oh, that makes complete sense. This is exactly what I need. Where if you have a sloppy discovery, you don't position yourself as the expert, you don't frame your offer properly, when you make the offer, it doesn't make sense, right? It's a beautiful picture in an ugly frame. They're like, it looks weird, you know? Um, and you want to start implementing this on your sales calls, where if you're constantly working on putting, the framing's just an analogy, right? It's just a word, right? But putting your offer in a good light, like providing context to everything they need to know before they actually see your offer, the missing piece to their puzzle, whatever analogy you want to use to it, you want to be doing this the entire time throughout the sales call. So when they actually see your offer, it makes sense. And if you can do that, things going to click in their mind. They're going to understand. That's how they see value in what you have to offer. Framing is going to give value to your offer. That's what does it. Honestly, people don't give a shit about the details of your offer. They needed to be positioned as the solution to their problems. And you do that by having a solid conversation and knowing how to work through that conversation to position and frame your offer in a way so when they see your offer, it makes sense. And that is kind of the lesson here and how important framing is, and you can, use this in a bunch of different ways, or I'm sorry, you can see this in a bunch of different ways. Like, it's like a TV commercial or a movie commercial, right? They're giving you bits and pieces, and it's framing what you're going to see in the movie. It's providing context, so you go, oh, that makes sense, I want to see that. You see this happening all the time in marketing, selling, advertising. They're putting their beautiful picture in a beautiful frame, so it makes sense that you want to see it, and you need to start working on that in your sales calls, and you will close more sales. And this is something that I'm constantly working on. It's how throughout my sales conversation can I position my offer in a perfect way so when they hear it, it absolutely makes sense and they buy, right? So that's the lesson on framing. I'm excited that I was able to share that with you. And it's something that if you start implementing on your sales calls, you will close more sales, right? And unfortunately, if you don't implement or you're not working on that in your sales calls, you're not going to close as many sales. These are simple adjustments that you can make. And it's just knowing how to flow through a sales conversation to where you are constantly framing your offer without them even knowing it, And then when you present your offer, it feels like an epiphany for them. Like, oh, holy shit, I get it. It clicks. This makes sense. I need this. Right. If you're not doing it throughout the conversation, when you present your offer, they're not going to get it and it's not going to make sense. And then they're not going to buy. So that's why it's so important. And if this is something that you want to work on specifically, I can audit your calls. We can get on and I can show you points in your conversation and word tracks you can say to properly frame and position your offer before you actually make it. If that's something that you want to do, drop me a message. I hope you enjoyed this training. If you need anything, obviously don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to support. We will be live next week and I look forward to seeing you there. Peace.